In this episode, I decided after many failed attempts at visiting the mountains for sunrise or sunset that I was just going to force myself to shoot more photos, to push myself out of my comfort zone and find scenes that I wouldn't normally shoot, and just be a better photographer. I hope you enjoy. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is roughly 6 a.m., maybe 6:15. Come up to Rocky Mountain National Park with the hopes of seeing the sunrise, and I don't think it's going to happen. This is my 5th or 6th trip up into the mountains in the last 3 to 4 weeks. All right, well, I came up here for sunset, and I don't think that's happening. Sun went behind some clouds, and the spot that I'm at has no light on it in terms of any dynamic light, and the wind is gusting in gotta be 30 miles an hour at least, and it's super snowy and cold, and don't think this spot is going to work, so I'm going to drive back, and every single time the conditions have just been to the point where I don't even take my camera out. A few sunsets, a few sunrises, and this trip I'm going to force myself to shoot whatever happens. Mostly because I'm tired of coming up here and not actually taking any photos. Hopefully, if the sun comes through, just even a little bit of light, there's fresh snow, it's snowing right now. The conditions could be pretty cool for some more intimate landscape shots rather than, bigger landscape shots. But we'll have to wait and see and hope that just enough light comes through where things actually look interesting. Regardless, I'm taking my camera out and we're shooting photos this morning. I don't care what it looks like. So I'll see you soon. Oh, what a morning. It has been about 4 hours since you saw me last, and it has been tough. Like I said, I've been up here, not to Rocky Mountain, but up in the mountains 5 to 6 times in the last 3 to 4 weeks, trying to just take some photographs. And today has been a challenge. It's been super, super beautiful. Like, obviously just driving around, everything is covered in snow. It's gorgeous. But the lighting for photography has been completely flat. Sometimes flat light and even light works, but it's this gray light where you can definitely tell there is no sunlight coming through the clouds. Now, as I'm filming right now, the sun is starting to come through the clouds, getting a little bit more light on everything, starting to look a lot better. But I've been driving around, getting out, walking around a lot, just looking for shots, looking for lone trees, anything, abstract stuff, just trying to find something because I promised myself I'm going to take my camera out and shoot some stuff. I shot some elk, probably didn't turn out. I'll put some on the screen at some point during this video. Maybe they turned out, maybe not. But here, as you can tell, I am in a parking lot after walking around, and I have found this dead tree trunk here that's got some snow on it, and it's framed right between two aspen trees. Absolutely gorgeous. The one thing that's really interesting about today is that it's not windy, which is not typical for Rocky Mountain National Park, especially in the winter. Normally it's just gusting with wind a lot of the times that I'm up here. So all the snow is still on the trees. Looks absolutely beautiful, and the sun is coming out now. And I'm actually hand holding this shot, which is not typical, but I'm shooting at f2.8 to just get the trunk by itself and kind of blur out the background. It's a little busy, but it's framed between these two aspen trees. The other thing is, as you can tell, there's a stop sign right next to it. So I'm trying to keep that right out of frame as I'm taking the shot. So I'm doing two compositions. They're basically exactly the same. One is just where I'm zoomed out enough to capture from top to bottom of the whole trunk. And the other thing I'm trying is just a quick pano of the bottom and top, just to get a little bit more detail. And you might be asking why I'm not using a tripod. Ideally, I should be, just being a little bit lazy, but also I just don't think I need it with such a high shutter speed. And just taking two shots right next to each other shouldn't be that hard to line up in post. But I'll show you the shot really quick. Hope it turns out. The light just came out, so the sun, for the first time, just came out. So we're gonna go keep looking for some more photos. Thank you for watching. Thank you for bearing with me. It's been rough. Still beautiful, still having a great time. So thank you, and enjoy whatever turns out.
Here's the single exposure RAW that I took, and I didn't actually end up needing to use the pano, even though it gave me slightly more detail. Just the single exposure was enough. And in this photo, you can kind of see how hard it was to balance the dead tree between the two aspens while trying to keep the stop sign as out of frame as possible, so that when I went to crop in, I had enough actual detail to do so. My edit includes a 2x1 crop, which is a pretty strong portrait crop, and normally you do 2x1s for much wider or panoramic shots. And I think that's probably one of the downsides of this image, was just I wish I had more on the left and right hand sides, but because of that stop sign, I was kind of restricted. Other than that, my edit includes just a little bit of contrast, and I think I warmed it up just a touch. And even though the sun was coming out, the light is still pretty flat. You can see some shadows on the foreground and the bottom, but overall there's just not a whole lot of dynamic contrast going on within the tree itself. The other problem is you can see the balance was difficult because the two aspens are straight up and down, but the tree has leaned a little bit to the left naturally as it's passed on. I do love the little details such as the green moss or algae that's grown within the tree and all the texture that's there, and just kind of how it naturally waves or curves itself up through the frame. Overall, I think that this could be a better photo in better light, and especially if I had more time to maybe work on keeping the stop sign outside of the shot, I think it would turn out even better. I would love to know what you guys think down below. Anyways, let's keep going.
All right, we finally got some light. There are blue sky. Okay, we've already lost the blue skies, but I promised there were some blue skies for a second. And the sun has come through just enough to shine some light into the valley here of Rocky Mountain National Park. And it is absolutely gorgeous. And I don't typically shoot during midday, but it is around midday right now. And in the snow, sometimes it can work. But mostly I'm just trying to force myself to shoot, force myself to look for stuff, because it's the first time I've seen the sun trying to shoot photography in like the last 5 or 6 tries. And I'm doing a very interesting composition. You can actually see my camera right down here is as low as it'll go. I found this dead tree here that all the branches are falling into the snow, and it actually looks really cool. But I was trying a pretty interesting composition. I'm not sure if it's going to turn out, where I'm shooting directly up into the sun. And I have this tree basically symmetrically lined up to where the sun is right in the middle. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to use the dead tree branches to block just enough of the sun to give me the tiniest amount of light. And I'm shooting at f/16 to give me a really nice sunburst. So the idea is, even though it's midday, I'm trying to make that light source as small as possible while still having it shine through into the camera. And if you want more information and stuff on that, I actually think it's gonna be over here. I did a video on capturing perfect sunbursts and techniques you can use. And basically, just to catch you up, I have to move my camera back and forth, just trying to find the perfect spot where those branches block out just enough of the sun. The only problem in this particular case is the sun is diffused. So instead of being just a small circular light that's super bright, it's creating a much larger, brighter source. So I don't think it's gonna turn out. I shot a bracketed shot of 3 different exposures, -2 EV, +2 EV, and 0 EV, and I moved the camera around at f/16 to get that nice sunburst. We'll see if it turns out. I doubt it will. I thought the composition's cool. And if anything, if it does turn out, it's probably gonna be a black and white because there's not really a lot of color here, and that dead tree is gonna look really good in black and white. So I'm gonna put that together. Hopefully it turned out. Here it is. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna keep looking for more shots. The sun is coming and going now, so I'm not sure if I'll get anything else. Hopefully I do. If not, thank you for watching, and I might see you again, and I might not. So I thank you guys for joining me on this. Whew, what a day. So yeah, thanks.
So I ended up being correct in the field in that this photo doesn't end up turning out. However, I wanted to present it to you, and I think it's really good to take photos that are outside of your comfort zone. Just try and experiment with new things. There's always room to improve. There's always room to get better as photographers, especially when conditions aren't perfect. So I've showed you the 3 exposures that I used, and then my edit is just an HDR of those exposures blended together, and I cropped it down to 4:5. Normally I don't use HDR except for when I want to test an image to see if it's worth taking it to Photoshop to luminosity or light paint those exposures together. In this case, I decided that it wasn't, just because that gray sky is just too gray. Even trying to convert it to black and white, I don't have enough blue in the sky to manipulate the colors together to have those tree trunks stick out from the sky. I do think that there's a lot of cool stuff going on in this photo in terms of the tree trunks or the roots almost coming down to the ground and the snow. And it's busy, but it's busy in a way that works, I think, for this dead tree. And I did get the sun small enough to get some sunburst, but it's still a pretty large light source and was difficult to manipulate. Overall, I think the photo could be much better with different conditions, of course, and I think it was worth trying. I'd love to know what you guys think down below.
All right, so right behind the last composition you just saw is this log that's fallen over. Log. Log implies it's already dead, right? A tree that has fallen over and has this snow on it that right before I set everything up was looking absolutely gorgeous with these different tones from the sun. But now that the sun has gone behind the clouds, a lot of that contrast is not happening. However, what I'm doing is shooting really close to the log, and it's a wide angle shot going from right of frame to left of frame, and I'm focus stacking because there's so much in the frame that needs to be in focus. But I'm not sure if it'll turn out because the light is gone. Regardless, I shot at least one shot handheld without focus stacking when the light was good, so maybe I'll show you that one, and if the light ends up changing and the focus stack works, I'll show you that one. Really quick, I'll show you the composition as well. We can talk about that. So it's probably going to be hard to see just because everything is white and my Canon camera is black. On the right side is the beginning of this log that has snow covered on it. And then there's these dead branches coming out that are also covered in snow. And all these patches of snow up here in the background were being cascaded with light and creating this really nice contrast that looked really good. So that's what we're waiting for. That's the composition. And I was just focus stacking from here to here to here. Probably 4 or 5 shots if it works out. Looking at the clouds though, I think we lost the best light already. And it is what it is. Either way, I'll show you at least one of the shots I took right now. Thanks for watching.
First, I'd just like to apologize that I know it was difficult to see the actual composition on the back of my camera because of the lighting conditions, so I hope showing you this straight out of camera raw helps you understand a little bit of the composition better. Now, I said I took 5 focus stacked images. Well, I didn't end up using those. This is just one single exposure at f16, and the reason I decided that was just, like I said in the video, the light had faded by the time I had set my tripod up, and I'm glad that I at least got one exposure where the light was actually cascading into the image. My edit includes a small bit of Photoshop where realistically all I did was dodge and burn some shadow areas, and I removed some of the foliage in the very bottom left corner to remove a little bit of distraction, but I consciously left in part of it because I like those shadows and I think it adds a little bit more environment to the photo. I think the textures in the snow and the light actually cascading into the image are really nice, and I think that this is the strongest photo I took in the day. I did convert it to black and white, but I haven't made a decision on which one I like more. I would love to know what you guys think down below.